Good morning. Let's see, it's actually, I think it is almost noon. It's supposed to be starting at noon. Today is Thursday, November 25th. So hard to imagine that 1 month from today will be Christmas, Christmas of 2020. And for many, the passing of 2020 is just around the corner. And also, many are not sorry to see 2020 leave. Unfortunately, I'm not sure that at least the first half of 2020, 2021 will be that different as far as the COVID goes, but we will survive as we are. Um, there is proof of that. We are still on the planet and we've been here for a long, long time. So I don't think we're going anywhere. But that being said, today I'm online to talk to you once again. This is my weekly series this week where I wanted to come online and talk to you about Illuminate, Unleash Your Inner Leadership Brilliance. And this is a program that I'm running for women that starts in January. We start on January 14th. And what I've been doing this week is touching on topics that will be areas of um, interest and work that we will delve into through the course of Illuminate. Illuminate is 5 months, so we have lots of time and to journey through lots of different areas. But the area that I'm going to talk about today is called Leading Through Agreement versus leading through expectations. So this is an area that we will delve into as part of our learning through Illuminate and the work that we focus on to shift as we move forward. When we talk about agreements versus expectations, this can apply to any aspect of your life. Of course, I'm always coming from the perspective of who you be as a leader in your life. And we're not talking about a leader in an organization, although this is certainly applicable for that as well. We're talking about who we be as human beings. How do we lead our lives? And where are we coming from when we're trying to get where we're going? Oftentimes we are coming from a place that is not powerful in our leadership. And so that's the work that I do. It's totally about transforming who you be and how you're showing up in your life. So today, let's talk about agreements versus expectations. And oftentimes in my mind, I get the term expectations confused with assumptions, but I'm just going to interchange them at times. So bear with me. So expectations set us up for failure. Absolutely, both personally and professionally. We have expectations of our partners, we have expectations of our employees, we have expectations of our supervisors, we have expectations of the coach who works with our children in the sports area. We tend to have expectations everywhere, and they normally let us down. So expectations often set us up for failure. Agreements occur between adults. They're co-created and they clearly articulate what it is we want, what it is we're going to agree to, such as timelines, deliverables, and accountables. We may build in conflict resolution into the agreement. So how are we going to deal with conflict when it arises? So that is like overtly articulated in the agreement. Ways that we're going to connect with one another when things are falling behind. Perhaps there's something in the project plan that has some slippage, and now we have to adjust the time. So what are we going to build into the agreement that's going to serve us for us to connect to make adjustments? So it's very clear, there's no guessing. Hierarchy often reflects parent-child relationships, parent-child structures. Oh my goodness, I certainly have experienced this when I was working with adults in the corporate world. There is oftentimes supervisors treat their employees like children. It's quite horrifying, and it's also extremely disrespectful. And I don't think all the time that this is intentional. It is a result of the hierarchy oftentimes. But it is really disrespectful. And I have no doubt that I have fallen into that hole more than once in my career, but very conscious of it today, especially given the work I do. And also, just recognizing that you don't get anything from anyone when you don't respect them. So if we want what we need to be done, we need to treat our people with respect. And expectations encourage employees to have and create, and not just employees, but anyone that we're look at our relationships and personal relationships. When we are expecting people to do something, it actually encourages them to come from a place of more immaturity. So I often say this about women: they treat their partners like they're inept. They're inept in raising the children. They're inept in getting the dishes done. They're inept in don't do the laundry, I'll do it. You don't fold it right. Like that kind of behavior sets up the dynamics between partners that one is uh, more adult and more capable. And when you do that in relationships of any kind, whether it be work or personal, you're going to create um, problems. You're going to create friction, and you're going to create the dynamic of where someone is less likely to do what we want them to do. And furthermore, um, who are we to expect anyone to do anything the way that we think it should be done just because we think it should be done that way? And when we're in a work environment, we co-create these agreements. That's the point. And as a result of that, we're building an adult to an adult relationship. But I can tell you that I have experienced it when I've had an employee come into my office and, they say, "Can I ask you a question?" They say, "Can I sit over here today?" And I've actually caught myself saying, "Sit wherever you want. I'm not your mother," which I am not, which probably was fairly blunt in how I said that. But that dynamic is not empowering from where that person is coming from. So I'm not saying I need to have an agreement with somebody where they can sit, but just speaking of a structure that sets up the dynamics of parent-child formats, right? So that's not going to get you what you want, and it's certainly not who you want to be as a leader, I hope. What we want to do is have agreements. We want to manage the agreements. We don't want to manage one another. I really love this. We want to manage the agreements that we co-create. I don't want to manage you as a person. I don't want to manage your emotions. I want to manage the pieces of works that we said we would create together. So they're mature and they're respectful. There's no guessing, there's no assumptions, and there's no expectations. They allow our communications to be honest, clear, concise, focused, and not emotion focused, emotion centered. So what they really do is create clarity, and they make it not personal. And that's really, really important. Uh, for most situations when things don't materialize and it's based on assumptions or expectations, the outcome of that is often that someone's feelings are hurt or someone feels bad, even if you as the lead person didn't say anything to make them feel bad. Of course, you don't have the power to make anybody feel anything, but if the outcome is that someone feels disrespected or hurt, oftentimes it is a result of us not being clear and having expectations versus clear agreements. So expectations, as I said, do not lead to people feeling respected. And our job oftentimes is not to manage their emotions and their personalities. Sometimes, it requires us to step in as leaders. But in this context, we're talking about setting the stage for, let's say, work that needs to be done, or even with your children, you're setting the stage for what their roles and responsibilities are. Everybody's clear, there's no assumption, whatever it may be. And same with when I was a professional coach in the sports world, you have an agreement with the parents, you're working with their children, you articulate what that agreement exists, is comprised of, and both people work together to co-create that. Much less um, wonder. People are not wondering, they know what's going on. So sometimes it sounds like I'm saying we don't care about them emotionally. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, of course, we care. However, what we're doing is to try and remove some of the unnecessary emotion that may occur when we have assumptions and expectations versus clear, concise agreements. Let's see here. in when we have clarity, then everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. So, I've already said this, but I'm going to reiterate it. Expectations almost always lead to disappointment based on the fact that we think other people know what we want. They don't. They know what they would want in that same situation, and they may operate in accordance with that, not giving you what you think you want. So, something to think about. You may get some pushback from people. They may resist or resent or fear being held truly accountable. Of course, I can see that, especially if this is new and this is something that you're going to start to practice in your leadership roles. They may feel uncomfortable. They may feel fearful that they can't live up to it. But that again comes with a conversation. So you have a conversation, you get clarity, everybody knows what everybody's supposed to do. That doesn't mean everybody's never going to make a mistake. Of course, we're all fallible, we all make mistakes. But it just helps everybody move forward, understand what the rules and the responsibilities and the accountabilities and the timelines and everything are, so that people know what they're supposed to be doing. I was going to say, know what's expected of them. So always, the greater my expectations, the greater my disappointment. And you can see this a lot. Um, if I was to say in my work ethic, I'm a highly driven person. And if my expectation is that everybody works like I do, I guarantee you I'm going to be disappointed. I hired a young woman back in 2000, I think it was 2006, and she was lovely. To this day, we're still very good friends. And she said to me, what is your expectation around work? Because she saw how I worked and she did not want to work like that. And I remember thinking what great courage she had. She was only about 24 at the time. And so we had a conversation around that. And, I said, I don't expect you to work like me. But had we not had that conversation, her assumption was that I might expect that. She didn't want to live up to that. So she had that her own awareness around that, which I thought was brilliant at 24. And us having that conversation, we were able to work out, what good work ethic, what good work practice, what hours worked for her and worked for me. And we had a great working relationship. But she brought that forward, and she would come to me all the time. She had lists of things that were her accountabilities, and she would say to me, okay, this morning when we met, you gave me 3 extra things to do. You said these are a priority. What can I bump off my list? um, and I thought, again, brilliant young woman, because she knew she could not do all that was on her list. We just added 3 new things, and I'm, down the road already going on to the next thing as as the supervisor. And she was always getting clarity for herself. So great lesson there for the employee to, take control and empower yourself in your own career. This way, there was no false expectations on my side that she was going to do the 20 things on the list. She was only going to do the 17. I'm just kidding. But the point being that we had a lot of clarity around what she was doing and what I knew that she was doing versus what she was not doing. So it worked really well. And the other thing is, I always tell this kind of as a joke, but when I was working in an organization, I'd go into the lunchroom, and I'd be shocked. There'd be people there in the morning. They had just come to work. We haven't even started the day. I've already been in my office for an hour at least, and they're putting puzzles together. And I'm thinking, oh my God, you came to work and now you're putting puzzles together. And like, that's my stuff, right? And they weren't doing anything wrong. They were having a cup of coffee and socializing before they got to work, like got down to work. Anyway, but that's the kind of situation that causes problems when, if my expectation is that they're not doing that kind of thing, then I see them doing that kind of thing, then I'm disappointed. I think they're not working up to my standards, which is probably a very unrealistic work ethic and work expectation. So just laughing at myself because they were doing nothing wrong, but my story was they weren't working hard enough because it didn't align with how I worked. So being clear, having agreements, building those agreements together really alleviates a lot of this story stuff up in our heads, and we all have it. So when I'm living in, what do people expect of me today? I try to live up to that. And that equals a life run by other people's expectations. So I'm not living my life through my own lens, my own power. I'm, trying to serve what they want, which is not serving me. And sometimes it's only my story, like I just said. I imagine what their expectations are. Um, Not for any other reason than it's usually my story. So if when I changed my work hours and when I moved and I had to commute, I had to all of a sudden leave the office by 4:30. This was unheard of in my career. And I felt really guilty for the longest time leaving the building at 4:30 to get the bus to commute home. I had to do that. If I didn't catch the bus, I wouldn't get home. It was an hour and a half drive. Anyway, and I didn't have a car if I was commuting on the bus. But it took a long time for me to adjust to that. And it had nothing to do with anybody else's expectations. It had to do with my own stories around other people's expectations. I mean, I was in the office at 7, so to leave at 4:30 was perfectly legit. But my story was, I'm in management, senior management. I can't leave at 4:30. And it took a long time to adjust to that. And I was, burdening myself because I was trying to insert my expectations of myself into someone else's thinking, which didn't exist. Anyways, that's what we do to ourselves. We project our own thoughts, feelings, emotions onto other people, and that includes our expectations and our assumptions, which we live through our own lens and is not necessarily what other people are experiencing. So, um, agreements remove all this. Now, nothing is, 100% foolproof, but they do really help create that clarity. They also, when you're creating and co-creating an agreement with somebody, you're really getting a sounder, more in-depth understanding of how they work, how they think, both as, a supervisor and as an employee, and really what one another needs to be happy in the job, to work to their full potential, all of those things, to come to you and not see you, if you're a supervisor, as somebody who is in a superior role and has total say. That's ridiculous, especially in today's world. You're not going to find young people to work in an organization that are going to um, show up that way. Mostly, I'm sad to say, I work with a lot of women. I still see a lot of that, but it is shifting. And like the young woman that I was speaking about earlier, she was really into physical fitness. And so instead of having flex days, which was normal in our environment, she chose, and we talked about it and we agreed to it, that at lunchtime she would take an extra, I don't know, 15 minutes a day because she wanted to go to the gym and work out. So rather than taking one day off every 2 weeks, which over accumulated time, she took some extra time during the week when she went to the gym. And that was a constructed, discussed agreement. So there was no, me sitting there saying, where is she at 1:30? She's not back at the office. Not that I was like that anyways, but that could happen, right? If she just assumes she's not doing flex days, she can just go do that. And I'm expecting her to be there. So it sounds silly that we wouldn't already do things like this, or it sounds laborious. Like I've had people say to me, well, I'm not going to make an agreement around everything. And it's like, it's not that onerous. And it will change the dynamics of the work relationship drastically if you do this, because people work much more efficiently and effectively when they know exactly what they're doing and what we've agreed to, versus just shooting in the dark, hoping that that's what Heather wants, or Heather hoping that's what her supervisor wants. Good luck. There's always going to be disappointment. So also too, leading from expectations is very passive. It's a way of showing up where you wait, you hope, you worry a lot, which is very draining, that things will be done the way the person wants them to be done. And I really got clear on that when I was doing my conflict resolution training. one of the courses I took was around really getting clarity on what it is you need. And so as an employee, I really put that into practice because I had different supervisors that were really clear or really unclear. I had one specific that comes to mind, and people people used to come to my office and bring her emails and ask me, "Can you interpret this? Because I don't know what she wants." So she she wasn't very clear, needless to say, God bless her. But what I learned when I was doing this training that made me laugh was it's my responsibility as the employee to get that clarity, because we often criticize our supervisors because we say, well, they're just, they're lousy communicators. And that may be true, but are you going to teach them how to communicate more effectively? Probably not. Are you going to tell them that they're lousy communicators? Probably not, if that's your supervisor. But what you may do is change how you're showing up. So you may change how you're showing up by asking the questions, getting the clarity, and enabling yourself to actually deliver what it is they want. And with an agreement, of course, that would be the mature adult way to go about things, but we don't always have that opportunity. We don't necessarily have a supervisor who's going to be willing to do this. So in a case like that, what I was just talking about would serve you, for you as the employee to get that clarity. Um, and it's easy to do if you come at it from questioning. I know you said you want this. Does this meet your needs? And so you can come at it from that angle if you're not in a situation where you can actually do a formal co-created agreement. There's always a solution. And people will say to me, well, my boss will never go for that. That may be true, but first of all, you have to ask and have that conversation before you truly know that. And second of all, if they won't, then you get clearer on asking questions so that you can be better at getting done what needs to be done, and not like setting yourself back because you didn't get it right, because you didn't ask, so you didn't know and you were guessing. Assumptions. So leading from agreement, it requires courage. That would be courage. If you don't have a situation where you're going to co-create, but you're going to get some more clarity than you have in the past, that'll take courage for you to ask those questions. I guarantee you, I've lived that, and it really made a huge difference for me. You're going to ask bold requests. Again, that's courage. You're going to commit. You're going to hold yourself accountable. You're going to make promises, and you're going to take action. So agreements are built on integrity, and expectations and assumptions are very passive. You don't really know. It's like swimming in the mud, like drowning. Anyways, the other thing is, when you create an agreement, always, always, always make sure that part of it uh, entails timelines, the deliverables, and the deadlines, which are part of your timelines, but timelines throughout whatever it is you're doing, and final deadlines. And also, I would say, on top of those three things, make sure you build in some kind of a conflict resolution mechanism, what you're going to do when you hit a wall, and also to making sure that there's a mechanism or an agreement around when there's time slippage. So how you're going to deal with that. So those are the main concepts that I wanted to touch on today on agreements versus expectations, and hopefully that will serve some of you in some manner. And even if you just do it a little bit, it's going to change things up for you, I guarantee it. But think about yourself as a leader, no matter what role you're in. So if it's with your partner at home, maybe you could get a little more clarity between the two of you around expectations with the children, picking them up, dropping them off, meals, cleaning on the weekend, all those things that oftentimes we don't talk about. We just fall into roles. And around that comes a lot of resentment. And I guarantee you that. I've lived it. But not only that, I hear that a lot with the people that I work with, my clients, whether it be in the work environment or whether it be in their home environment. When we're operating without feeling uh, the equality, the co-creation of input, the treating one another as adults versus children, and not having expectations versus having expectations. It really does change things up. And most of the women that I work with struggle because they have a hard time saying no. So we say yes, yes, yes at work, and then we're just like overburdened to the max in that environment. Then we go home and, we take on 70, 80% of the rule there as well. So, as much as, we may complain about our partners, a lot of it, we need to look at ourselves because we set it up. Hmm, that doesn't align very well, does it? But it's true. Anyway, all right. On that note, I just want to touch on Illuminate for a second. So, Illuminate is a 5-month program, starts in January, and it only has 8 seats, and that is intentional because I'm creating a safe container for the women that are coming. And you say, who is Illuminate for? Illuminate is for women that are already successful in their own right, women that are really in a place in their lives where they want to transform how they're showing up in their lives. So they know they're successful, but there's something missing in how they're playing the game of life and the game of life as a leader and owner of their own life. And I come back to the frame of who you be, not what you do. So I don't care if you're a CEO or you're a middle manager. I don't care if you're a middle manager or someone who's just stepping into their career. It does not matter. What matters is how are you showing up in your leadership capacity as a human being? And where are you hiding from yourself and thus hiding those parts of you from the rest of the world? Because this is an area where I guarantee you, you are holding yourself back. And if we can dig into, hence the title Illuminate, shine the light within, we're going to uncover and dig up some of those jewels that are holding you back and really discover what is in your way and support one another to achieve what it is you want. And in this program, you will build yourself a plan. You will focus in on the areas that you really want to shift, transform, how you're showing up as a leader, and you will be accountable to work through that with the group and of course with me as your team lead. The other thing is that you I was talking to someone this morning on the phone and they said to me, is there a lot of you know, assignments and homework. Because people are so busy, that's a really legitimate question because they don't want to take on more than they already have. But this is not that kind of work. This is about recognizing, acknowledging the behaviors that you're bringing to your being that are not serving you. We do that in our group work, and you will identify that based on our conversations and what comes up for you. And then the practice happens in real life. So we talk about being on the court versus in the stands. So many of us live in the stands. We're very smart. We're very knowledgeable. We keep reading more books. We keep taking more courses, but we're still in the stands. We're actually not on the court playing the game. And so this is about saying, here's where I want to play different. Here's where I want to play bigger. Here's where I want to step into my discomfort so that I can grow. And this is what it looks like to be on the court. Then the practice is out in the real world and putting that into action. So that's the homework piece, so to speak. And then bringing that back and having conversations around, how did that serve you differently? What worked, what didn't work? Getting input from the group because this is going to be a group of people that are like in that we all want to grow and serve one another. It's not competitive, it's collaborative, it's a connection of women who are superpowers and they don't recognize it enough themselves. We all recognize it somewhat, but we have way more superpower in there that we don't tap into. Illuminate's can help you tap into that. So, on that note, if you're interested, you can connect with me on my email. So it's Heather Beaton, Beaton, as it says in the little corner there, at shaw.ca. So you can find me on LinkedIn, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me if you really want to. And then we can have a conversation. So my commitment is if you're interested, let's have a conversation and see if A, working together seems like a good connection for you, and B, the work really, lights you up. And then we'll go from there. Okay. So have a great day. And whatever you're doing, step into it powerfully. It will serve you, I guarantee. Bye bye.